less of a bailout.
Do you think what we're seeing right now,
it's not good. Pardon?
Do you think what we're seeing right now is a bailout?
Well, clearly it is. I mean,
I really do think that they bailed out SVB at 100%. Like, oh, let's see, when did they do that before? Oh, AIG back in 2008, and that was Merrill and Citi and everybody else. So there's always an ulterior motive, and even if they say that it's not bailed out, these are all tech and venture capitalists that our government and actually the central bank is partnering with to come out and manage the CBDCs. So, they don't bail you and me out. We're just the right size to fail. But that was a bailout. I don't care what they say. That was a bailout. And it was a bailout of venture capitalists. So 2008 was the bailout of the banks. This is the bailout of the venture capitalists because a lot of the risk was transferred. Don't get me wrong. There's a tremendous amount of risk in the banking system. But a lot of the surface risk was transferred into private equity. And that's who we just bailed out. So it's garbage for them to say anything else, but they're going to because they have to manage your confidence, manage how you perceive these things. Denise asks, how safe are credit unions compared to traditional banks with everything that is happening in the banking system right now? Look at which ones are going down, and credit unions are tied into the commercial banks. So I know we want to, there is no safety in the system. The system is at its end. There is no more kicking the can down the road. Your wealth is not safe in the system, period. That's why you have a diversified portfolio. In gold and silver, physical in my possession, I trust. Not in the paper promises. I mean, really, what supports this? We were just talking about this, and maybe it's a good time to remind you. Aren't we told that what supports the dollar is the full faith and credit of the government? That's true on a global basis. So let's just translate that. As long as you trust them, you have that confidence in them, you have faith, you'll continue to loan them money, extend them credit, full faith and credit. So it's the government's ability to grow more debt. We're at the end. I don't care if you're a government, you're an individual, you're a corporation, you all have limitations. Now, clearly, governments and central banks have greater limitations since they control the money, but they aren't gods. They're human beings, and they are fallible, and they have a mission. They don't live in the real world with you and me. They live in their ivory tower, and everything is about theories, and their theories are blowing up in their face because all of this is a con game and requires your confidence. There is entity
type of good news, but I think the markets should have been down a lot more than they were today. A couple quick notes here. Fox Business, I was watching this earlier today. They rolled out another real estate agent telling us that, well, there's no inventory and this is going to help to hold real estate up and prices up. I think it was Rob Kiyosaki that said this, and I think it's a 100% correct statement. Real estate isn't driven by inventory, it's driven by jobs. And we're looking at more job losses. Meta laying off another 10,000, Tyson 1,700. So we're seeing it in tech, we're seeing white-collar jobs, we're going to see more blue-collar jobs lost. This economy has collapsed, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to continue to watch things break. Let's talk about the SVB bailout. One thing I wanted to mention yesterday, and I forgot, was that our governor here, Newsom, had 3 wineries, which were part of SVB. Also, his wife's charity was in SVB. So you know why he was lobbying for a bailout of this bank. Because he had 3 wineries in this bank and his wife's charity. Unbelievable. Also, I want to note this. The Fed's balance sheet is sitting right now at $8.34 trillion. So a little bit over $8 trillion. When they started the tightening, it was at 9. So think about how little tightening has really taken place. The Fed is not tightening very much at all. Interest rates should be much higher than they are right now, and this is why they are losing the battle against inflation. And while the world is falling apart, while we are witnessing bank runs, bank collapses, massive job losses, we're watching Social Security robbed, we're watching pensions robbed, 401ks robbed, retirements robbed. People are watching more Netflix. So one of the things that was actually up today was Netflix. So the zombies continue to be zombies while they're losing everything. They don't even know it. At some point, they're going to go to their bank one day, and they're not going to get their money out. They're going to go to their ATMs. They won't get their money out, but they're going to have Netflix. Isn't that incredible? Here's another one. Israeli bankers pulled $1 billion from SVB immediately before its collapse. These guys are in the club, ladies and gentlemen. You and I are not in it. So it's just amazing that nobody will go to jail. There'll be no indictments. There'll be no trials. Wow. People at the very, very top, the CEOs, the CFOs of this bank, these bankers in Israel, and many, many more knew weeks in advance, months in advance what was coming, and had time to get their money out. Credit Suisse shares tank after Saudi backer rules out further assistance. Saudi National Bank says it will not provide further financial help for the bank. It's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out, but right now they may be getting help from their national bank, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Their stock was down, floating around $2 today, a little bit below. It's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out. Very interesting article today coming from Market Watch. Billionaire investor Carl Icahn said the net worth of median household is basically nothing. Also says that we have major problems in the economy. He says a lot of people in our economy ain't doing well. So remember that 56% of this country, only 56% of this country can come up with $1,000 to pay a bill or pay an emergency. Carl Icahn sees things worsening. I think most of you would agree. Most of you right now see things worsening. You've been seeing things worsening. Goldman Sachs cuts GDP forecast because of stress on small banks, which are key to U.S. economy. This on CNBC. Cuts growth forecast by 0.3% to 1.2% for 2023. Also, manufacturing plunged month to month unexpectedly. Also not a very, very good sign. Shark Tank star Kevin O'Leary, not a big fan of his, but he's completely right here. Bashes SVB bailout, moves assets out of banks. Says the bailout policy has unintended consequences, including giving the implication to banks that the Fed will always come to the rescue. He's 100% right there. Banks can keep gambling without consequences, without implications, ladies and gentlemen. If they win, great. If they lose, great. They're going to get money. They're going to get rewarded. They're going to get their bonuses, and life goes on while you and I pay for all this, while your purchasing power continues to buy it less and less. I mean, could you imagine going to Las Vegas and somebody just saying, look, gamble as much as you want. If you lose, no big deal. We're going to give you more money. We'll reward your losses. Fox Business. Retail sales slipped 0.4% in February as consumers pull back on spending. The consumer has borrowed so much on credit cards and now maxing out the credit cards, hitting the wall. They're running out of money. They're running out of time as they max out and tap out those credit cards. Another article today coming from WallStreet.com. Services inflation rages at 4-decade high, fueled by rents, auto insurance, repairs, airfares, etc. Overall, CPI was up 0.4% month over month, 6% year over year. We got a long way to go to 2%. But services without energy jumped 7.3%, a 4-decade high. Airline fares up 26.5%, auto insurance up 14.5%, vehicle maintenance up 12.5%, rent up 8.8%, pet services up 10.5%. Food.
The global financial crisis and inevitable reset that we've been warning about for some time is taking place right now. And we have banks around the world collapsing to zero, a run on their deposits. This is also known as bank runs, and these are liquidations and panic selling of some of the largest institutions in the world. Case in point, after multiple banks failed just over the last couple of days, Silicon Valley Bank, Signature, and many others, now Credit Suisse, the largest bank in Switzerland, one of them at least, I think top two, is now on the verge of teetering, bankruptcy, going to zero, and liquidating all of its consumer deposits based on pure fraud, in my opinion, mismanagement, and of course central banks propping up zombie, too big to fail institutions that shouldn't be in business in the first place. But what people need to understand is this has always been the plan, and this is exactly what they want. A financial reset so they can reset you into what is called a CBDC, a central bank digital currency, and collapse the old system that is now bankrupt, insolvent, and no longer works anymore due to mismanagement, politicians that I believe have been bought off with cronyism at the highest level, and bankers and too big to fails that have basically walked away with billions, trillions of taxpayer-infused dollars and never had to pay any consequences for them driving financial equivalents of Titanics into icebergs and ruining people's lives. Whether or not this was 2008 and 09 and the grotesque, insidious bailouts, or it's now in 2023 while the whole world sits on the verge of bank runs and we are just betting on which goes down next. I'm Christopher Green. This is March 15, 2023, hard-hitting and in your face. Please like and share this critical message.
I guarantee you the derivative issue has got to be bubbling up and it's going to spill over at some point. And I don't know how long they can contain it. I don't own a 401k or any, I do have a retirement plan, but I hold it and I own it because it's in this. I don't have anything in the markets, and I'm an ex-banker and I'm an ex-stockbroker. I understand what they're saying, and so I don't own any. You do whatever you're comfortable, Layla, but this is much more than about inflation because we have been entering, and I told you this when the inflation started running hot, you guys. I said, this could very well be the start of the hyperinflation, and I'm standing by that because we'll see what Fed Chair Powell does coming up tomorrow on whether or not he raises rates. Maybe